back to the FreeFormKnits YouTube channel. I'm Haxie Evers, a knit and crocheter whose freeform ways of crafting led to the world of design. All the places you can find me will be listed down below this video. Thank you so much for stopping by and crafting with me for a while. So it is episode 21, which is, I didn't realize last week's was episode 20. So I want to thank you if you've subscribed to my channel. If you haven't, please take a moment to do so. It means so much. So let's just get started into what I've been working on. The date is, I always like to say the date, but I never do. I believe it's the 24th of June. Once it reaches the 20s of a month, I can never remember which is the day. Though fair enough, I can't remember the days most of the time. That's just how it is. So we'll get started into some finished objects, we'll talk about some whips, and we'll talk about some designs and then whips. And it shouldn't be a long one, but we'll see. So we'll start with the finished, one of the whips that which I had been working on last time. I believe I had half of a foot to do on this pair of socks. So it is this pair of socks here, and there are two. So this is a sock pattern I'm working on for a collection of socks to come later this year. It'll be a collection just using garter stitch in socks essentially. But this is the first one, and it is just this really fun like checker box garter stitch pattern where they alternate, and it's got my shortcut heel and garter stitch and my hat trick toe. And the yarn I used for this pair, there are two, it's just easier to show one. The yarn I used for this is Yarn Bee's Yarnology. I have a different color I'm using for another pair. Color Ideal is it's Yarn Bee brand, but the line is Color Ideal. And this color was, I forget, I remembered before I sat down, but now I can't remember. I want to say Mist or Frost, Ice Frost, something like that. I used to know. I mentioned it last podcast, so there we go. I just love how this pattern turned out. It just shows up so nicely. So this will be the first sock in that collection, and I'm working on the second. And if you want to be available, if you want to be a test knitter to test these patterns before they are published, then you can sign up for my tester newsletter. It's a tester email list. Every time I have a need for testers, I will send out an email, and you will be able to look at the test and see if you want to join in. You won't have to agree to every test, but you will have the option of joining in if you like. So that'll be listed below. And that's that pair of socks, and I knit all my socks. I knit on a US to 2.75 millimeter needle. That's just the gauge, the fabric I get that I like for my socks. So that's that pair. That's finished object number one. Finished object number two is a project that was not cast on last week. It was a very quick project, and it is this hat. And the lighting, as you might be able to tell from the background, I did move the couch so that the background would be just this plain, you can actually, it's a whiteboard, it just sticks to the wall. But now we're under the direct lighting, so the lighting's a little bit off, but I'm trying. But this hat, this is my cable for beanie that is not out yet. It'll be out later this year. And this is just a sample for the pattern. And it is just this cabled hat, all cabled hat that is so nice. You can see the crown. I love pretty crown decreases. And you can see it on. I just love the cables. It's tidy cables. It's super stretchy. So this hat pattern will also need testers soonish. I have a lot of patterns that are in the I need to get tested stage, so it's just finding the time to schedule those tests and making sure I can run them efficiently. But this is this hat pattern. And the thing about this hat pattern that's going to be special, this will be my first pattern to have an any gauge method. Like, you will be able to knit this hat in fingering, in decay, in worsted, and bulky. And so this is the worsted sample for the hat. And I knit this out of Knit Picks Brava in the Salt and Pepper colorway. Salt and Pepper Speckle. And this is just my leftovers. And Knit Picks gave me this yarn to try out. So this will be a sample for this pattern. It is a 100% premium acrylic yarn. It's machine washable. It's just really great. It was really fun to work with. And I just love this color. Their Brava Speckles are new to their, fairly new. Not as new now as they were when they first came out, obviously. But they're fairly new line, and they have just such pretty colors. And I love this color. It's like these blues and like muted blues, and just so pretty. I love how it worked up. And it was really nice to work with, and it feels really good. So I also knit this hat on needles given to me by Knit Picks. I have a review for these needles up on my channel, and I'll have that listed below. They are short interchangeable 4-square needles, and you can't see because the light is horrible, but maybe you can. They're square, and what's great about these square needles is they help the grip. Like, I know for me, knitting with the short needle tips like this, sometimes it can just kind of hurt my wrists a bit more, my fingers a bit more, but these just make a really comfortable grip. It's such a small change, but it really does help. And like I said, I have a review about these up on my channel, and I'll have that below if you want to learn more about these needles. So that's that finished object. I just finished it yesterday, and I haven't taken it out of the bag yet, so. And the next finished object, I know what I'm going to talk about next. I have a thought process here. So the next finished object was, I hadn't planned on making, but let me just start out by saying, I've not touched my cross stitch. I haven't touched it. I talked about wanting to touch it. I haven't touched it. And that ties into this because another hobby that I have is spinning. I have a drop spindle, I have some fiber, and I do spin from time to time. I would like to spin more than I do, but alas alack. But I have spun quite a bit. As compared to, I've tried this year to making more of a point of spinning. Oop, and it just came undone. So I have two hand spun skeins here. This one is just, I'm not very good at it yet. It's just a fluffy, bulky mess. But there are some, like here, there's some decent parts here. Like, oh, look at this one. That looks, where is it? It's hiding. Here, look at that. That's decent, right? If only I could do that consistently. But the fiber I use, it is the Yarn Bee Impeccable something. It's like this, I think it's meant more to be used as like thrumming for mittens, like the insides of mittens and stuff. But it does spin. I don't know whether it's me not being good at spinning or it's the fiber. It is very hard to draft it. In spinning you have to draft the fibers to get the width you want, and my hair's all looking weird in this light, so sorry. But I'm learning. It's fiber. It's fiber I can easily get my hands on, so that's what matters. And then I did finish this one this weekend, well, last weekend now, and it is this. I'm improving. Like, I got some more consistent, more of a worsted rather than bulky bits. So I'm improving, and I had this hand spun. That was my first like official wound up and everything, plied hand spun, and I actually made something with it. Look at this. Isn't it adorable? So the inspiration for this pattern was the toy bird, I believe it's called. It's a free pattern that I've used so many times. I will have it listed below, or maybe I'll put a picture here, I don't know yet. It depends on time and everything. It's a little toy. I've knit this bird pattern so many times throughout the years, and I did modify it. Like, I started out following the pattern for the body, but I was worried about yardage, so I made the body shorter than it's supposed to be. And then I did not follow the pattern for the wings or the beak, and this is supposed to be a tail. Again, was worried about yardage. I could probably get a tail out of this, but I probably won't do it. But that toy was the inspiration for this toy, and it's so cute. I knit it on, I think I used 11 needles because, like I said, it's a bulky to worsted to fingering white yarn that I spun up, but it's so pretty. Like, I made the yarn. That's pretty cool. You can see it knit up fairly. It knit up. That's all that matters, right? And there's my seam because I knit them flat. And then I actually crocheted the beak. Just took some yellow yarn and did like 3 rows of single crochet. And then just sewed it on. So yeah, and I'll probably do the same thing for these little mini skeins. I haven't weighed them because I don't think that would be very accurate because, like I said, their weight varies greatly throughout the skein, and I haven't measured their yardage, so. But it's a start, right? That's all we can do. All we can do is start. So that's another finished object. Put that over here. And I guess we'll talk about designs. I think that's better before we get into whips. So the first piece of design news is my Garter Rib Bliss socks are officially, there's a release date. There's more on that actually. So my Garter Rib Bliss socks are in testing. The testing is almost completely over. I think all my testers are finished now. And the pattern will be available for purchase in my Ravelry shop on this Sunday, June 27th. So that is that, and you can actually pre-order the pattern at 25% off its full listing price. Right now, the link to the pattern will be listed below, and you will be able to pre-order it so you can get a little bit of a discount. Love these socks so much. I knit them out of Knit Picks Felici in the Chelsea colorway, and then the contrasting heels, toes, and cuffs are just a mini that I had. And the cuff has this great, detail if you could see it. I don't think, it's not showing up that you can see it, but maybe it is. It's like this lazy twisted rib. It's not even a full twisted rib. It's just so great and has a little bit of interest, because I cop out on my ribbing all the time. And it's just super pretty, and it makes this braided effect. And then it's got my shortcut heel. You can do it in stockinette or garter. It's got my hat trick toe. And be sure to follow me on Instagram so that you can see over the coming days, you'll see all my testers' socks, all the beautiful yarns they used, and just so many cool things coming. So you should definitely follow me over there on Instagram. Yeah, you can pre-order the pattern in my Ravelry shop. You can read the listing, everything, all the features of the sock, all the sizes, everything in there, and that is design information number 1. Now, I did want to mention, last week I think I said that I would have the video up for these socks. These are my Delightful Knit socks. And I have a tutorial all ready to be inserted into the pattern if you are interested in purchasing that. The tutorial is not in the pattern yet, just a few little things I have to do, but it will be in the pattern eventually. There's a bit of a scheduling conflict here, but I just have to make time to do that. But these are my Delightful Knit socks, and the pattern is available in my Ravelry shop. It comes with 3 different texture options, 2 different cuff options, and a full tutorial. Eventually, it'll come with a full tutorial. It does come with 2 heel options in Garter or stockinette. Just a great first sock pattern, a great DK sock pattern, everything. But I have not yet done the tutorial in the pattern. I have to put it in and do all these little things that I just haven't had the time to do. But that is that. I just want to mention that because I was very certain last week and I would have it out by Tuesday. But then things happened. So there's that. And last bit of information for design stuff this week I'm really excited about. So I have been knitting dishcloths, and these do count as finished objects because I've been obsessed. Well, is 3 dishcloths obsessed? This is 1 dishcloth, 2, and 3. 3 dishcloths, and they're all different sizes. This is the smallest, the medium, and the large. So I usually, here's the story behind this. I usually, when I make dishcloths, I usually knit, like I think most people, a corner to corner dishcloth. Now I think most people use the Grandma's Everyday dishcloth pattern. I don't use that pattern. I've never used that pattern. I have just done, it's not really a difficult pattern. I think it's a free pattern on Ravelry. I don't know, I probably learned it from the Very Pink Knits tutorial, how to knit a corner to corner dishcloth, and that's always what I've done. And it's always a toss up whether I do a no holes version or a version with the yarn overs. Just depends on what I want to do. But I usually make a dishcloth like this, and I love these dishcloths. However, you knit them by starting at one corner and you increase to your widest point. Now, when I'm doing this, I always get, I usually never remember how many stitches I did for the last one, or I'll be wondering how big it'll turn out because I don't want to make it too big, but I don't want to make it too small. And usually it always ends up smaller than I intended, and then it shrinks because it's cotton. So a lot of stuff with that. So I've been wanting to, for a while, make a different type of dishcloth, and I finally have. And this is a pattern that will eventually be free on my blog, and if all goes according to plan, a full tutorial along with it. So this is the dishcloth, and I did come up with a name, and then I forgot the name I came up with. So that's the kind of week it's been. But it's surrounded by garter. It's got garter borders and then moss stitch, which I love. I was looking for an excuse to do moss stitch, and I found it. So this is the biggest size, and then the medium is just a little bit smaller. If I can stack them, you can see just a little bit smaller than the one before it, and the smallest is actually almost the exact same size as these dishcloths. So I knit those 3 dishcloths out of Knit Picks Dishy in the Azure colorway, and this is the Knit Picks Dishy in the navy colorway, which I plan to do more dishcloths out of. And I love Knit Picks Dishy, I really do. Knit Picks Dishy is just such a great cotton. This and I love this cotton are my 2 favorite cotton yarns. And there's someone running around upstairs. So sorry. And I did all those 3 dishcloths out of 100-gram skein, and I had some left over. I weighed it, and I have, I think, enough to do half of a bigger dishcloth. So maybe I can get a small one. I forget now because I weighed it, and I know I have enough to do half of. I think the biggest I could do half of, or maybe the medium. I don't recall, but when the pattern comes out, it'll all be in there. Let's go into whips. This first whip kind of ties into acquisitions, and I'm not sure if I'm technically counting it as a whip. So I talked about last week the 2 crochet patterns I wanted to make. This cardigan that I was going to convert into a pullover, and this Tunisian crochet shawl. Now I bought the hook to make the shawl. This was the only hook they had in Hobby Lobby. This 6mm Tunisian crochet hook with this floppy cord. This is the Yarnology brand of tool. And it's been going fine. I haven't started the shawl because while I know the Tunisian crochet stitches, I do know them, I don't know the names for them. So it was very hard to follow the pattern and the tutorial because I didn't know the names. So like she has a full tutorial to go along with the Party Punch shawl. But like she would say, do a full Tunisian crochet stitch, and I would get that confused with a different one. So I put that pattern aside and just did this little swatch to familiarize myself with the names, and it's coming unraveled because it's been in a bag. I'll probably frog this now that I'm a little bit more familiar. So I've got the basic crochet, Tunisian crochet stitch, the knit stitch. I know this is the knit because it looks like stockinette. And then this, I think, this is where I get confused. I think this one is the full one because the boxes inside are full. And this one is the half because it's done in between the stitches. So I think I have to look up how to do increases in all of these, and then I will be ready to do that shawl. And this yarn is Yarn Bee Sweet Divinity. I think it's Sweet Divinity. Can't recall the colorway, but that's what it is. And it's listed as a DK yarn, which is fair. It's a thinner DK, but a thicker fingering. So yeah. So my next whip is this sweater that I believe I showed last week. I talked about how I wasn't really motivated to work on it because I wanted to knit so many other sweaters, but I didn't want to start one without finishing this one. And so I figured out where I want to be every week as I knit this sweater. So meeting those goals, I should have this done in 3 weeks now, which is kind of a long time for me with a sweater, since considering how long this has been on the needles. But last week I decided I would finish the skein of yarn I was using. I only had a little bit left, and then I would knit the sleeve. And so that is where I am now. And it does not fit in this bag anymore, so it's all crinkled up. Here's the back. You can see this beautiful color. And you can see I have one sleeve, and I picked up and knit a little bit for this sleeve. So it's just this cardigan that I've just made up the pattern for. It'll have sort of a v-neck once this edge is unrolled and a border is picked up. The yarn I'm using is Yarn Bee ID in the Bluestone colorway, and it is a mixture of 80% acrylic and 20% polyamide. Very soft. And so by the end of this time next week, I want to have this sleeve done. And when this sleeve is done, I will finish the body, and then I will knit the necklines. The are they called necklines? The button bands. I believe I'm going to do buttons. That's what I forgot. I forgot to bring the buttons I picked out. I found buttons and I picked them out, and I'm going to do buttonholes. I've never done buttonholes for like a sweater for my size because I'm lazy, because I don't trust myself. Not that I don't trust myself. I don't want to take the time to plot out where I need to put the buttonholes and do the math to make sure that they're evenly spaced, make sure that the buttons actually fit. It's a whole thing. So, but I'm going to conquer that this time with this sweater. I'm going to try and fit it back in this bag because I don't like taking a big bag around with me. However, a sweater needs a big bag in order to fit in easily. This is just a bag I made quite a while ago. It was my first attempt at a box bottom bag, if you can see that it was clearly a first attempt, because that's not right. But the fabric is very pretty and it kind of matches. And I actually have another work in progress. It's a crochet work in progress. The Charizard toy that I talked about casting on. I already talked about. I said I had it casted on last week. I've just crocheted some more pieces for it. Nothing sewn together. It's nothing really exciting. It's just a lot of little pieces that I don't want to bring over here and unpack and show because it's just blobs. So I will show that, however, when it is completed, which will hopefully be soon. I need to have it done in less than a month, which is fine. It'll get done. Usually with crochet amigurumi toys, I can knock them out in a day or two. But this one's a little bit more labor intensive, this Charizard, so I'm taking my time with it. Trying not to rush it just to have it done, which has happened. So the last work in progress I actually have to show you is another sock, my weekly sock whip. And it is using the yarn I showed you before. Yarn Bee Ideal, Color Ideal is the Orangeology colorway. And it is a blend of 50% merino wool, 30% nylon, 20% acrylic. And I'm working on the second sock in this collection, this garter stitch collection. And I'll show you on my, these are my Knit Picks sock blockers in the medium size. And I'll put it on the blocker and then I'll take it off to show you the stitch pattern. Probably doing that backwards, but hey ho. It's all crinkled up. This is the sock, and you can't see the pattern from way back there. And as you can see though, I am more than halfway down the foot, and then I have to do a toe. Then it'll be finished, and I can cast on the second one. But my needles are making this impossible. Can you see? It's a zigzag. I love it. I love it so much. I've had this idea for a sock for so long, and it's finally happening. My pretty garter stitch heel, which I love how it looks. I mentioned that recently. And just 2x2 rib again. And I just love, love, love this stitch pattern. I love that it worked out. It took a little bit of trial and error to make sure that it would work not just for this sock, but for all the sizes. Can you see? Oh, it's so pretty. That marker is just marking or the difference between my leg and my foot. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. I just love it so much. You can see the pretty color and the stockinette on the back. I love having the back be plain stockinette and having the front be something of interest. I think the sock just goes better, goes faster. It's so great. And that's my whip, and these are my sock needles, my Chow Goo needles on a 40-inch cord, because 32-inch is too small for me. I prefer a 40-inch. So this will probably, in an ideal world, it'll be done today. But probably not, because I should really make a dent in that sweater tonight. Get some of that sleeve done. Now, I just keep my socks recently. I've been just keeping them in this little bag that I can put in any bag that I'm going around the house with. And then I just have this little clear sleeve that, like, things come in when you purchase, like, stitch markers. They come in, sometimes they'll come in this little sleeve. And I just kept that and have my light bulb, that's what they're called. Eye bulb. What is wrong with me? Light bulb stitch markers, my darning needle. This is my favorite darning needle for fingering weight. And then these little pair of snips. And I just keep it all in here. And then when I finish this sock, it'll also fit in here. And that's that. That's everything I have to talk about this week. It's been a pretty average week. Not much to talk about. Not as much crafting as I would have liked, but when is there ever as much crafting as one would like? Well, I thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and to craft with me for a little bit, hear me ramble about some of my makes. If you want to keep up to date on everything that I'm working on and not miss anything, be sure to subscribe, like this video. You can also follow me on Instagram at the FreeFormKnitter. And you can also sign up for my email list so you will always know when I'm publishing a new pattern. And you can also sign up for my tester list if you want to be a tester for any of those patterns before they are published. So that's everything I have to talk about. Thank you again, and I'm just rambling. Thank you again. Happy knitting!